Oh, hello, is that Honda? Oh, hello. It's Aaron from Car Obsession here. Would it be possible to get a car to review, please? Which one? I'll give you a hint. It's 5 doors, it's a hatchback, and everyone's talking about it. Yep, okay, marvellous. Yep, I shall send you my address. Cheers, bye. Oh, yes. Lovely.
I won't lie, it's not the car I had in mind, but it's here now, so let's review it. Let's start off with the looks. Now, I know looks are very much subjective, but for me, the Jazz isn't really an exciting car to look at. Sorry, Honda, but it is a bit boring, especially when you compare it to a Fiesta or an Ibiza. Yes, you've got Milano red paintwork and 16-inch alloys, plus you get a honeycomb grille, but for me, that's not quite enough. It doesn't excite me. Now, I'm afraid the interior isn't much better because you are met by a sea of black materials, most of which are hard, scratchy plastics. Now, to be fair, you do get some relatively soft detailing here and a silver strip to try and help break it up, but the inside does feel a little bit dated and it definitely isn't as attractive as some of its rivals. And the touchscreen also isn't that great. It's standard, it's 7 inches, but the graphics are horribly outdated and it definitely isn't the most intuitive to use, which is probably why the manual, just for the navigation alone, is over 130 pages. I've got it here. There we are. So to be precise, it's 136 pages. I don't think it's different languages. No, this is all one language, English. So yes, Honda, please improve your touchscreen because it desperately needs updating.
So far then, the Honda Jazz isn't exactly hitting the right notes, but let's go for a bit of driving and see if it can redeem itself.
If you're looking for a wide choice of engines in the Jazz, then I'm afraid you will be disappointed because there's just two on offer, both of which are a naturally aspirated petrol unit. You can either have a 1.3 litre unit or a 1.5 litre unit, which is only available if you select the Sport model. I haven't got the Sport model, therefore I'm making do with the 1.3 litre unit, which has 101 brake horsepower with 123 newton meters of torque. Honda states that this car will hit 62 miles per hour in 11.4 seconds. And to be truthful, that does seem a little bit optimistic. I think Honda used a bit of a decline and a tailwind when they got that figure, because in the real world, it does seem to take quite some time. But to be fair, this car isn't built for performance, so I should really lay off it in that regard. In case you're wondering what the top speed is, that's 118 miles per hour. This power is mated to the front wheels via a 6-speed manual gearbox, which I have to say is very snappy to use. The throws are short, they're precise. You know what? I've been pleasantly surprised by this gearbox. I really wasn't expecting it to be that good. Now, if you don't want to have a 6-speed manual gearbox, you can have a CVT automatic, which I haven't tried, but from what I've heard, it's not particularly brilliant. So unless you're really after an automatic, I recommend that you stick with this 6-speed manual gearbox because it's a real peach to use. It's lovely. Now, because this engine needs to be worked hard, you will find it to be rather noisy. It's quite boomy when you get towards the red line, but thankfully, when you settle down to a cruise, the engine works away in the background in a hushed manner. Now, speaking of noise and refinement, there's a fair amount of tyre noise and wind noise coming into the cabin, but to be truthful, you won't find yourself having to shout to your occupants in order to have a conversation, so it's not too bad. Now, with a name like Jazz, you would expect this car to ride like its music genre on which it's based upon. Smooth, casual, laid back. But in fact, this car, the ride is a bit more like rock and roll. It's quite firm, it's quite jiggly. It's firmer than I was expecting for this car. It's not uncomfortable, but at lower speeds, it can be quite bumpy. But when you do hit a higher speed, thankfully, it does compose itself a little bit more and it does sort itself out. On the plus side, these seats are nice and comfortable. They're soft and spongy, although I don't think they'd have enough support for a longer journey. I reckon if you were to drive this car a long distance, you would get a bit of cramp after a while. Because the Jazz has got quite a firm ride, you would expect it to be quite dynamic when it gets twisty, and you would be absolutely incorrect. I'm afraid this car in the corners is a little bit lackluster. It's not awful, but is it as good as other cars in its class? No, it's not. The grip is okay, it's not fantastic, but you shouldn't find yourself getting into any real trouble. Well, let's face it, this car's only got about 5 horsepower, so you'll have no problem whatsoever. And there's also a bit of body lean to contend with as well. The brakes are pretty good though, I have to be honest. The brakes are pretty good, and the steering is also pretty direct, albeit light. I was hoping it'd be a little bit more fun to drive than this. So to sum up, from a driving perspective, the Honda Jazz is definitely lacking somewhat. Now at this point you may be asking me, well Aaron, why should I buy a Honda Jazz? It's not the greatest car in its class to drive, the engine isn't particularly great, and it's not a very pretty car to look at. Well, this car does have one ace up its sleeve: space, and plenty of it. I've got plenty of headroom in the front. Getting a good driving position is a piece of cake thanks to a steering wheel that adjusts for rake and reach like so, and a seat that also has a good level of adjustment. Plus I've got no less than 5 cup holders in the front. That's right, 5. I've got 1 in each door bin, so I've got my fruity drink right here. I've also got 2 in the middle, and I've even got 1 mounted to the dashboard, which is very handy. Okay, so it does block the air vent a little bit, but like I say, it is quite a handy feature. Not really a feature that you need, but I reckon you'd miss it if you were to get used to it and it were to be taken away from you. You've also got other cubby holes, so you've got 2 slots in the middle for smaller items, a slot in front of the cup holders where you can pop your smartphone or some loose change or maybe a packet of mints, and a central compartment which also offers a decent amount of space. The only drawback is the glove box isn't really of a good size, and most of it is taken up by this very thick manual which I've got here. Look at that bad boy, it's like a blunt weapon. In case you're wondering, this is the manual. Look at that, just look how thick that is, and before you ask, yes, that is all English. My word, that's a lot of paper. A lot of trees would have died for that. Right, let's pop that back, like so. And let's have a look at rear space. Rear space is one of the Jazz's biggest selling points because it has got quite a lot of it. So as always, the driver's seat has been altered for me. I'm 6'2", so I am of course a tall guy, but even so, I've got loads of legroom left over. I can really stretch back and relax, and I've still got a lot of room. Very impressive indeed. Headroom is also pretty good as well, so there's definitely more space to be had here compared to a Ford Fiesta, and you can definitely fit adults in the back with very little complaints indeed. The boot also has a good amount of space, and it's one of the biggest in its class. So what you're looking at is 354 litres, which should be more than enough space for most people. But if you do need more space, you can of course fold down the 60/40 rear seats to give you 1,314 litres.
And that's not all. The Honda Jazz also has Honda's innovative Magic Seats, which means you can fold up the rear seats to load taller items, which gives you better practicality and versatility. As well as tool mode, the Magic Seat configuration can be put into utility mode, refresh mode or long mode. As well as offering a high amount of space, the Honda Jazz is also frugal. 54.3 mpg is what Honda states you should get on a combined run, and in my experience I came very close to hitting it, so you should find your trips to the petrol garage will be infrequent. It emits 120 grams per kilometre of CO2, which isn't bad, but not quite as low as its turbocharged rivals. And for the first year of VED, you'll need to pay £165. Less CO2 is emitted if you go for the CVT automatic gearbox, which offers 114 grams per kilometre, but you'll still be required to pay £165 for VED. But fuel economy is a little bit lower. Figures do improve when you opt for a model with smaller wheels, but it's not too much of a difference, so don't let the higher trim levels put you off. Now if you're after the 1.5 litre engine, you can expect respective combined figures of 39.2 and 44.1 mpg for the 6-speed manual and the CVT automatic gearbox. The manual will be a bit costly for VED, as it will cost you £205 thanks to emissions of 133 grams per kilometre, whereas the CVT emits 124 grams per kilometre, meaning you'll pay £165.
Visibility is also fantastic. You've got a large windscreen which gives you great vision. The A-pillars are set farther forward, therefore when you get to a junction you've got no obstructions. The wing mirrors are of a good size, as is the rear window, so seeing out of this car is very easy indeed. But in case you need backup, this model does come with front and rear parking sensors as well as a reversing camera.
The Jazz also offers a decent level of kit. This EX model starts from £17,240 and is able to offer features such as 16-inch alloys, 7-inch touchscreen, DAB radio, Bluetooth, navigation, climate control, reversing camera, front and rear parking sensors, autonomous emergency braking and keyless entry, to name a few. There are 3 other trim levels to choose from just in case the EX isn't for you. S is the base model, which starts from £14,240 and is able to offer cruise control, automatic lights and wipers, Bluetooth, autonomous emergency braking and air conditioning. Next up you have the SE, which has a starting price of £15,740 and is able to add a 7-inch touchscreen, 15-inch alloy wheels plus front and rear parking sensors. Then of course you've got the EX model tested here, which leaves the range topping sport model, which starts from £17,280. It would be natural to expect that it offers more kit than the EX, but is actually closer to the SE in regards to its specification. So you may be wondering why you're paying more money. Well, that's because it's the only Jazz to have the 1.5 litre petrol engine. You also get sportier styling, LED headlights and 16-inch alloys, but in honesty you're probably better served by the SE or the EX. Is it safe though? Well, in a word, yes it is. The standard Jazz receives 6 airbags, speed limiter as well as autonomous emergency braking. This was enough to earn the car 5 stars from Euro NCAP, with adult occupant safety earning a very impressive 93%. Step up the trim levels and you'll also get traffic sign recognition and lane departure warning as well.
So then, is the Honda Jazz able to hit the right notes? Not quite, I'm afraid. Yes, it's spacious, it offers a high amount of safety, a good amount of equipment, and it's pretty frugal to boot, but in all honesty, it's not quite as good as its competitors. It needs a better choice of engines, it's starting to feel a little bit dated, it's not the best car to drive, and that infotainment system would simply drive me up the wall. However, if you're looking for a supermini which is easy to drive, offers loads of space and is practical as well as safe, the Honda Jazz could well be for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, give it a massive thumbs up. If you are subscribed, don't forget to smash that bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. And if you aren't subscribed, guys, what are you waiting for? Be sure to subscribe for more car obsession.